Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're strapping in for a focused exploration of something really capturing attention right now, the brand new TAG Heuer Formula One Solargraph collection.
Absolutely. And this feels like a really relevant moment for this kind of deep dive. Wouldn't you
Yeah.
agree?
Yeah.
Especially thinking about TAG Heuer's bigger push into motorsport. That new Formula One title sponsorship for 2025.
Yeah.
It really feels like they're all in on the racetrack.
It certainly does seem that way. And anchoring this sort of renewed racing spirit is this collection, the Formula One Solargraph.
Hmm.
What makes it so interesting, I think, is that direct link back to the original Formula One watch. We're talking nearly 40 years ago now.
Wow.
That watch, really, for a lot of people, was TAG Heuer when the name changed. So maybe the Solargraph is the bridge, between that nostalgia and what a modern watch fan expects. That's kind of what we want to dig into today.
That's a great way to put it. That original, it was such a statement piece, wasn't it? So bright, so affordable, very 80s.
Totally 80s.
So what we're going to uncover here is how this new Solargraph takes that basic DNA and evolves it. Because it's not just a straight reissue, is it? It's aiming higher, I think. More refined, more adult, maybe.
Exactly. More adult. That's a good word. And for you, our listener, the learner, our goal today is simple. Give you a clear understanding of what makes this collection tick technically and, aesthetically. We've gone through the sources to pull out the key stuff, kind of shortcuts so you're up to speed without getting bogged down.
Right.
Okay, so let's start unpacking this design evolution. What's the first thing that jumps out comparing the new Solargraph to the original?
Well, size is the obvious one, isn't it? The new Solargraph is 38 millimeter. The original was 35 millimeter.
Okay, 3 millimeter difference.
Yeah, and it might not sound like a lot on paper, but the feedback suggests it. It subtly changes how it sits on the wrist. Feels more contemporary, but still kind of keeps that compact charm. Definitely moves it away from that maybe slightly boys' watch feel of the original size.
That makes total sense. Like just enough bigger to feel current, but not losing that easy-to-wear vibe.
Yes, exactly.
And then the materials for the case. You've got the standard matte blasted steel, always good, but also this TH-Polylight polyamide plastic.
Wow.
Which sounds like more than just plastic, right?
Yeah, it sounds like they're really emphasizing the quality difference here. It's not just about saving costs or being colorful. The sources say it genuinely feels more premium. A big step up from the original's plastic, aiming for something more serious.
Right, because the original fiberglass could feel a bit cheap.
A bit rough, maybe even flimsy sometimes, yeah. But this TH Polylight, described as having almost a silky feel, which is a pretty big upgrade, apparently even compared to something modern like, say, a Moon's watch case.
Okay, so a noticeable step up in just the feel of it. And I heard this TH Polylight also affects the colors, like those classic bright 80s reds and yellows, or maybe a bit softer.
Exactly right. They're still bright, definitely eye-catching, but the sources say the effect is a touch more balanced, a little less loud than some of the originals. They specifically mentioned the classic McLaren colorway. It's still got that look, but the TH Polylight gives it this finer surface, allows for maybe a subtler range of hues as the light hits it.
Interesting. So you still get the F1 vibe, those color pops, but the material itself adds a bit more sophistication.
Yeah, exactly. And then, of course, you've got the steel versions, too, which bring that familiar weight and heft that a lot of people just equate with a proper watch.
Okay. So moving on to the case and bezel details. They kept some nods to the original, right? Like the chunky bezels.
Oh, yeah. Especially in the TH Polylight ones, you definitely see that echo of the original's chunky, crenellated bezel, the notched edges. It's a clear visual link.
Right. But the main case shape itself sounds like that's where the bigger changes are. They called it a high-resolution remaster. What does that actually mean in terms of the shape?
I think that remaster idea really fits. It's about a new sense of visual depth, sharper angles, crisper lines between surfaces, things that weren't really there in the simpler, more rounded original shapes. The lugs are probably the best example of that.
Ah, the lugs. Right. They don't have that raised Formula One text anymore, do they?
No, that's gone. And the whole shape is different. There's this sort of intricate compound curve on the top surface of the lidded lug now.
Okay.
And it creates this pronounced lip where it meets the main case. It's subtle, but apparently it catches the light really dynamically. Adds a bit of visual flair.
And the way they flare out is different, too.
Yeah, it's reworked. Less of a sort of simple outward bulge, more of a sharper angle. It contributes to that cleaner, more streamlined look they seem to be going for.
And taking off that raised Formula One text, it's a small thing, but sounds like it really helps make it feel less toy-like, more grown-up.
Absolutely. It removes that very specific 80s playful element and just cleans it up, makes it look more considered. Even the crown area got a makeover. Remember the kind of small jutting crown guards on the originals?
Yeah, they always looked a bit tacked on.
Exactly. Now they're integrated much more smoothly into the case flow. Looks way more cohesive. And the crowns themselves aren't those simple little pillbox things anymore. They're more substantial, like gear-toothed crowns. Feel more robust, more luxe when you use them.
Gotcha. And despite all these refinements, maybe making it feel a bit more substantial visually, the thickness is still pretty slim, under 10 millimeter.
Yeah, just under 10 millimeters. So they kept that thin, lightweight character, which was definitely part of the original's appeal. Easy to wear.
And still practical, too. Water resistance is decent.
Yep, still a solid 100 meters for both the steel and the TH-Polylight versions. They've got screw-down crowns and screw-down case backs, so properly sporty.
Okay, so the case got a serious upgrade. What about the dial? Sounds like a similar philosophy there. Keep the classics, but make it feel better.
That's a perfect summary. All the classic F1 cues are there. You've got the colorful minute tracks, the Mercedes hand, the hour hand with the circle,
Yep.
and those shield-shaped hour markers at 12, 6, and 9. Instantly recognizable as a Formula One.
But again, the execution is where the difference lies. Sounds like pretty much everything on the dial got a tweak.
Yeah, the dial hardware especially. The hands are wider now, look more substantial.
Hmm.
And they've got more lume, apparently, for better visibility. And the hour markers, big step up there. They're applied now, raised off the dial.
Ah, not just printed like the old ones.
Yeah, exactly. And they had this sharp finish, either matte black or polished metal. Adds real depth and complexity compared to the flat look of the originals.
And even the dial surface itself isn't just plain flat anymore.
No, another subtle but impactful change. The old dials were just flat matte colors, pretty basic. Now the black dials have this fine matte graining texture. And the white dials are described as having an almost milky visual depth. It just moves it away from that purely functional look, adds a bit more sophistication.
Okay, sounds mostly positive. But I think I read there were maybe one or two things on the dial people might quibble with.
Yeah, that's fair. The sources mentioned the text at 6 o'clock. 3 lines of it might feel a little unbalanced to some eyes. And the typeface they chose is kind of blocky, a bit futuristic, maybe described as a touch overstyled. These are subjective things, obviously, but it shows not every single change is seen as a clear win by everyone.
Right, it's always a balancing act, isn't it? Trying to be modern while respecting the past. Okay, let's shift gears, literally, and talk about the engine. The light-powered movement, this is a big part of the story.
Absolutely. The TH-5000 movement. It's a light-powered quartz developed by Joux-Perret for TAG Heuer. That's the key bit.
Right, because the immediate thought for many is probably, oh, it's just a Citizen Eco Drive in a tag case.
Yeah, that comparison comes up all the time with solar watches. But the sources we looked at push back on that a bit. They call those direct comparisons somewhat overblown.
Okay, so how is it different? Or what makes a TAG Heuer?
Well, the performance specs seem pretty high-end, aligning with where TAG wants to be. We're talking like under 2 minutes in the sun gives you a full day of power.
Wow.
A recommended service interval of 15 years, which is huge, and a 10-month power reserve once it's fully charged, which apparently takes less than 2 days of light exposure. So it's not just about convenience, it's about serious long-term performance and reliability.
Those are definitely impressive numbers, way beyond basic solar quartz.
Exactly, and it ties back perfectly to that original F1 idea.
Yeah.
Accessible, sure, but also really rugged and dependable. The TH-5000 kind of achieves that for today, but in a way that helps position the watch and the brand a bit more upmarket.
Okay, so a modern, reliable engine fits the bill. Makes sense. Now, let's talk about how these actually feel to wear the straps and bracelets. This seems like a really key part of the experience.
Oh, definitely. The sources really emphasize this. Just like the originals, the strap or bracelet pairing is crucial to the watch's charm and how it feels on the wrist. And that classic shield strap design. The changes there sound huge.
Yeah, that strap was iconic, but maybe not always the most comfortable.
Exactly. The originals were often this kind of brittle, inflexible plastic, sometimes even a bit scratchy, apparently, especially where you had to cut it to size.
Right.
The new version, it's a thicker, much more flexible rubber. Described as soft, supple. Sounds like a massive improvement in just basic comfort and feel.
That tactile stuff makes such a difference day to day, doesn't it? And the buckle's better, too.
Yep. Upgraded to a brushed, faceted pin buckle. Looks and feels more secure, more refined than the simple, often unsigned buckles on the originals. But interestingly, the overall design of the strap is kept pretty faithful. Still got those flat vents next to the Shield logos,
Ah,
although
yeah.
it's the current TAG Heuer Shield logo now, naturally.
So keeping the look, but seriously upgrading the feel and quality. Makes sense. Now the bracelets sounds like a more dramatic change there.
Yeah, quite a bit different.
Yeah.
The original steel ones often had that lighter, maybe slightly jangly, jewelry style bracelet. The new Solargraph replaces that with a heavier, much chunkier, faceted 3-link bracelet. Now, the sources say this probably fits the modern sporty F1 vibe better and definitely adds to that upmarket feel, but it also makes the watch feel significantly more aggressive, more assertive on the wrist, so it's a different character.
Right. So it's a trade-off. Maybe lose some of that vintage lightness, gain a more modern, robust, maybe slightly more serious presence. Shows how much the bracelet choice matters.
Totally. And, as TAG Heuer keeps leaning into motorsport, especially with that big F1 sponsorship coming up, this new Formula One Solargraph collection feels like it's right at the center of their story now.
Yeah, it's clear this isn't just about nostalgia, is it? It's not just a simple reissue.
Not at all. The sources are really consistent on this. It's refined, it's streamlined, it's tangibly better in many ways. The goal seems to be lifting the whole F1 line and maybe the brand perception overall into that sort of accessible luxury zone.
Which brings us, inevitably, to the price. What are we looking at? The sources mentioned around 1,800 to 1,900 US dollars.
Yeah, around that mark at the time of writing.
Right.
And the sources acknowledge that price point will probably spark some debate among watch fans.
Sure, for a quartz, even a sophisticated solar one.
Right. But the conclusion seems to be that the watches themselves, with all the upgrades and materials, finish, the movement, they're undeniably compelling. Suggests the value is there, even at that price, because of the overall package.
Okay. And availability. Sounds like some are out now, but more are coming, tied to the F1 season.
That's right. 2 steel versions are apparently already available through authorized dealers, a white-blackered one and a blue-whitered one.
Gotcha.
The other 7 models, which are all limited editions, are set to roll out during 2025, and they're tying the releases to specific Formula One race weekends throughout the year, which is, a very clever thematic way to do it.
Definitely fits the brand. So, wrapping things up. This deep dive really shows the Solargraph isn't just a refresh. It's a proper evolution, isn't it? Blending that 80s energy with modern materials, design, and that clever solar tech.
Yeah, and like we talked about, the changes aren't just skin deep. They really aim to give you a more premium, more refined experience on the wrist compared to the original, tackling some of those old limitations, offering a more grown-up take on a watch a lot of people love.
Right. So here's something to chew on for our listener. TAG Heuer is clearly pushing up market. This collection mixes heritage and new tech like the Solargraph movement. So how might this new Formula One line actually influence what other brands do in that accessible luxury sports watch space? And maybe more broadly, what does putting solar tech in such a core collection signal for the watch industry? Kind of interesting to think about, right?
Indeed. It's a really compelling mix of past and future, and definitely a statement from TAG Heuer about where they're headed.